Well, welcome to the How Leaders Lead podcast with me, David Novak. And today's guest is Milind Pant, the CEO of Amway, which just happens to be the largest direct selling organization in the world, happens to have $8 billion of revenue and over 1 million independent business owners, entrepreneurs that are selling Amway. Milind, you grow up in India, and here you are living in Ada, Michigan. And God, I have no idea where that is. And you're the CEO of Amway. Who would have thunk it?
David, this is, first of all, it's a privilege to speak with you. And gosh, when I was growing up, I probably couldn't even put New York City on the map, leave it on, figure out where Ada, Michigan is. So this is surely not a part of any plan.
Give us a little snapshot of your journey of how you got to Ada.
David, I belong to the foothills of the Himalayas in India. And as we were growing up, in any sort of a normal family, loving parents, I guess we were rich in parents taking care of us. In India, there is a phrase called for family values, what we would call family values here, a phrase called sanskar, which essentially is family values, do the right thing. And that's how our parents brought us up and kind of gave us the confidence that you can be whatever you wish to be. On hindsight, David, not at that point of time when we were growing up, but on hindsight, we had very modest material means. We never had air conditioning, and you've been to India multiple times. It's most of the year is 100 degrees and above, but we never had air conditioning at home. We never missed it. The first time we got television at home and a color television at home, even for that, was when I was in my teens. But we grew up happy, and we studied hard, and just had a good set of foundational values.
What prepared you, from a business perspective, to take on this Amway role?
David, I think that journey, if I was to go back, would go back to my initial days in Unilever in India. I joined it, straight after my management school, and I still remember the training program there was very interesting. It was a combination of going across functions and across categories, a fairly well-rounded perspective at an early stage. One of the stints was to spend 8 weeks in an Indian village. So here I was, after having done my strategy and my marketing in school, all ready to go and do glamorous things. And I spent 8 weeks as what you would call a paying guest in a village, a fairly poor village, with no running water, spotty electricity, no bathrooms. We used to take a bath in the village well out in the open, and those kinds of experiences really set a great foundation. And then I got lucky. I got a chance to meet you. We were living in Durban, South Africa at that point of time. We should talk about that story sometime, David. But one thing led to another, and the last 10, 12 years, I've had the privilege of just living like a global nomad. We were in Durban. From Durban, we moved to Delhi. From Delhi to Bangkok, all with Yum. With Bangkok to Shanghai, the opportunity of a lifetime. From Shanghai to Dallas, and here we are in Ada, Grand Rapids, and Michigan. So it's been quite a hell of a journey, and I'm very thankful for all the opportunities that came my way.
Milind, you have over 1 million independent business owners, as I mentioned. Could you explain the Amway business model to us?
Well, it's a fascinating model. It was started by two friends, David, 60 years back, Rich and Jay, and it's based on 3 ideas. The first idea is all about unleashing entrepreneurship. That's the core first idea. But that's not the only idea. There are 2 others. The second is it's a social idea. So entrepreneurs work as a part of a community. They grow and nurture other entrepreneurs. They have relationships that are based on trust and are based on heart. And the third part of Amway, it's about health and wellness. The core portfolio of Amway has got to do with holistic wellness, long-term immunity, and organic products, starting from taking care of Mother Earth. And these three ideas of entrepreneurship, social connections, and health and wellness come together across the world in over 100 markets with 1 million distributors. And it's as vibrant today as it was 60 years back.
You know, it's really interesting because when you think of direct sales organizations, a lot of people think of like Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes. And how do you handle the misperceptions of your industry?
Well, the most important thing for any entrepreneur to be successful across any industry is to be able to serve their customers. And that's what our entrepreneurs do best. And they do it with a portfolio that's about beauty and health and wellness. It's fascinating, David, as I joined Amway and as a part of my listen and learn, my first 100 days, as I went across the world, I met this entrepreneur in our ABO, we call them Amway business owners, in Tokyo, Makiko-san. And she insisted she wanted to meet me and kind of draw me in. She said, we'll cook together. So we had tandoori chicken and Indian basmati rice. We cook it like a group, a community of friends. And she said, Milind, I want to share with you how I'm trying to build my business. I said, okay, here's an entrepreneur in Tokyo. And she dished out a mobile phone and started making a presentation from our IG feed, our Instagram feed. And she essentially said, Milind, I built this business for 20 years and I built it home to home and offline. And today I'm building my community online around my passion, which is cooking, around my role as a mom, as an entrepreneur. And she had 20,000 Instagram followers, David. David, in April last year, I had 4.5 Instagram followers, right? And I looked at her and I said, wow, isn't this something? If we could have 1 million Makiko-sans across the world, if we could help a 23-year-old anywhere in the world, be it in Miami, London, Sydney, Shanghai, Delhi, Kuala Lumpur, Buenos Aires, who can come to us, need not have any capital, needn't have a college degree, everyone is welcome. And we help her succeed at her time, at her flexibility, at her freedom, and build a business on her own terms. Wouldn't that be great? And that's how our Amway journey to what we call social commerce, a 10-year plan that we've put into place. It's a fantastic idea that helps people across the world be successful.
Oh, that's great. You know, I love your enthusiasm. That's fantastic. And, you know, I know Amway is a family-owned business and you're the first outside CEO. Tell us about the hiring process. That had to be fascinating.
I guess I got lucky, David. The first time, I got to know of the opportunity that as a CEO role, I was intrigued. I was intrigued more because, when I looked at the brief, it was a global business. I didn't realize that Amway had 90% of its revenues outside of the United States. Actually 75% of Amway's business is between Tokyo and Mumbai in Asia. So I said, that's fascinating. That kind of plays up to the area I know best. Then it's a business of brands. I said, all right, that sounds good too. Then I said, like, what about the products? So I requested Amrita, who you know well, my wife, to say, all right, why don't we order some products online? And she did that, and lo and behold, of 48 hours, we got a box of artistry beauty products and Neutralite and gummies, and my son and I finished off the gummies in like 24 hours. So I said, like, okay, great product, global business, brands, but family owned, like you said, privately held. What does that mean? So Amrita and I were invited over by the DeVos and the Van Andel families to Ada, Michigan. And frankly, even though I was living in Dallas, I really didn't know where Ada, Michigan is on the map. But we went, with a very open mind. Both of us took a younger son along. And my God, what a wonderful experience it was. We were invited to their homes for meals. We met their kids. It was one family to another family, very down to earth. And I thought to myself, and as we were returning to Dallas, Amrita and I chatted, we said, we grew up a million miles away in the foothills of the Himalayas, but the value system and the family values that our parents inculcated in us are very similar to the family values of the divorce and the Van Andel families in West Michigan. And whichever way the process goes, a heart was made.
And how many generations of family members did you meet?
I met, well, we met generation 2, generation 3, and the generation 4 is still very young.
Oh, that's great. I love it. I love it. And it's a great American story. There's no question, Amway.
It is.
You know, what gave you the confidence you were ready to take on that job and succeed? You know, how hard was it for you really to make the big leap? I mean, you were leaving a Yum branch. You were on you had a great job as the head of Pizza Hut International, and you know, you had a good security blanket.
I did, and you know, that question, David, reminds me of a similar decision that I went through towards the end of 2017. As you know, Amrita, I and the family had moved to Durban, South Africa with Unilever, and we were well settled there. And you know, one morning in December, I got an email in my Gmail account from someone called David Novak when I was with Unilever, who said, Milind, and you know, David, I knew it was from you because it said Miland instead of Milind, which Indian names, who knows? But it said, and it went on to get your authentic personality and your offer to just have a conversation. And one thing led to another, and I left Unilever to join Yum, and I'm so thankful to you for giving me that opportunity. And it was then a decision which was as much based on rational and intellectual reasons as it was based on emotional and reasons of the heart. And it's the same thing that happened when I moved from Yum to Amway. It was as much based on the sense of adventure, of being a CEO, of being able to work with a large global company with 1 million entrepreneurs and do my little bit to serve them and make them successful, as it was the confluence of common values and value systems between people I met in the families and my family.
You know, Milind, and I apologize for misspelling your name back then. It is I do know that it's Milind now, not Miland. But you know, you mentioned you had a big learning session, or you spent some time. You said launch and learn session, or
yes.
I don't know. I forget exactly what you called it, but you know, how did you go about learning the challenges for the company?
David, this is something that I've found useful in every big move that I've made, which is to listen and learn. When I joined Amway, you know, I made it explicit to my team and to the entire organization and to the board that I will spend my first 100 days to listen and learn. So what did I do? The first thing I did is I went to where the rubber hits the road. I went to the markets to spend time with the managing directors, to spend time with our entrepreneurs, to listen to their stories and how they were building the business. Because I knew with all the strengths we have, we had to massively transform to be relevant to entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and to the competition that was coming to us from multiple angles, including e-commerce. So I went to the markets to listen to them and to listen to the entrepreneurs. And Makiko-san in Tokyo is one of those I met, but I travel across the world. The second thing I did was to go outside Amway, and I looked at digital and technology companies and looked at startups in nutrition. So we spent time in California, went across on a whole week-long trip, visiting the usual names, the Facebook and the Google, but also a number of other startup companies in nutrition. And then I went to Hangzhou to spend time in Alibaba. So we looked outside and then we learned from there. And the third thing I did was to reach out to the gurus. I reached out to you, David. I reached out to Indra, you know, who I've known for quite some time. I reached out to Ramcharan. I reached out. I even went to two programs, one by Wharton, one by BCG for new CEOs, just to wrap my mind around and build my plan. And once my 100 days were done, I then shared my listen and learn learnings and my thoughts on where I believe, what are the strengths of Amway, what are the changes I'm seeing, and where we need to go in an organization-wide memo in April last year, which was the starting of my journey in Amway.
Where did you decide, Milind, where you could add the most value as CEO? I mean, what did you make your immediate priorities after that learning experience?
My biggest priority, David, is to nurture our culture. We have an awesome culture in Amway. It's built on long-standing values. It's a culture of the heart. And my main role is to nurture that culture into what we call founders growth mindset. So we take the best of the spirit of our founders, the pioneering spirit of Rich and Jay, and combine it with what Carol Dweck in a book, Mindset, talked about having a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. And that's the journey I'm personally on, my leadership team is on, and the entire 16,000 employees of Amway are on. And that's my first and foremost priority. Along with culture, of course, we're looking at talent. We're looking at various ways of building capability. We're encouraging people to be able to feel safe, to take risk. There's so much that's changing so fast around us that we need everyone in Amway to feel secure and to be on their own personal journey of founders growth mindset.
Milind, I know some people who have family members and friends that are in direct selling organizations, and the real limitation to growth and revenue growth is it really comes down to the personal limitations that the entrepreneur itself has. How important is it for you to develop that capability, helping people get the skills they need?
I think that's a critical role, and in the Amway ecosystem, our leaders play a big part in that. That is the most important role of the leader, a distributor leader, is to nurture and coach, and in some sense provide the skills as well as say I got your back to someone who's starting in new and who may fail a number of times before they succeed. So that's a big role that the distributor leaders play in an organization. What we do as an Amway to help the new AB or the new person to succeed is to make it as easy as possible for her to acquire and retain customers and to get the tools and the skills required for her from day one to start earning and start learning new things. And then the leaders provide a sense of community that helps them succeed, and obviously has the sense of I got your back.
I heard you say her.
Yes.
So what percentage of your Amway business owners are female?
David, as you said, we have 1 million distributors. Close to 2/3 are females. Rather, in some of our most successful markets like Korea, where we have $1 billion business in a country of 50 million people, 90% of our Amway business owners are entrepreneurs, are women.
And how are you developing their skills in particular? Is there something unique you're doing on that front?
There's a lot of work that is taking place, David. I think if I was to take that question and kind of just take a step back, I think it starts with the global leadership team itself in Amway first. My colleagues and I, there are 10 of us in the global leadership team. It's completely balanced on gender. There are 5 women, 5 men. We've got 7 different ethnicities in the 10 of us. We've got Malaysian, a Chinese, I'm Indian, there's a Persian, French, there's Italian, there's African American. We've got 7 different ethnicities. A very diverse leadership team, very balanced on gender. And that is kind of the shadow that we're putting across the world. But specifically coming to your question about entrepreneurs, we are looking at different communities where women, young moms, young women are able to express their interest and passion and build those communities. For example, we've got a whole set of communities that we help them build on beauty, powered by our products. We've got a whole program called Passionistas that runs across the world. We've got communities around cooking. It is a little known secret that Amway's got a whole set of portfolio products on cooking, especially in Asia. We got communities on fitness. There is so many communities across the world that help women succeed. And our work can be done from home at a person's own time. And especially young moms truly find that to be a blessing in societies across the world.
Milind, what was the most surprising thing you learned about Amway?
Well, there were so many surprising things that I learned about Amway, David. One of my surprises was that I didn't realize, I had no idea that Amway has 6,000 acres of organic farms across 3 countries, in Brazil, Mexico, and in Washington State. And the first time I went to those organic farms, I said, oh my God, we've been taking care of Mother Earth for the last 85 years. Today, I don't know, is it farm to table and so on and so forth are mainstream ideas. Amway and Nutrilite have been doing this for 85 years, starting with organic farming. That was a big surprise to me. The fact that we had entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. I remember I went to Thailand, a country where, in Yam I spent a number of years. And I met those young entrepreneurs and they were on fire. They wanted to change and change fast. They wanted digital tools. They wanted to help us move faster in terms of change that we wanted to. That was a surprise to meet entrepreneurs like that. And I think the culture of Amway, a number of organizations, talk about purpose. And I think that's one of the things that, you hear most leaders talking about. In Amway, it's been the same purpose for 60 years. And it will be the same purpose for the next 60 years, which is helping people live better, healthier lives. It's not something that, a group of consultants or even the CEO kind of wrote it down on a piece of paper and it's on walls somewhere. It lives in every employee's heart. And that I found was a very special and very different thing in Amway.
So you have this purpose, it was established. So as the CEO, what's your role?
So my role is to keep the why and strengthen the why, which is our purpose. But everything about the how and the what is changing.
And what is the biggest change?
The biggest change is to help attract and help our young entrepreneurs, the new entrepreneurs, succeed in this world of social commerce. David, what's happening across the world today is that there is a very successful business models in e-commerce. There's Amazon here, there is Alibaba, there is Flipkart in India, and so on across the world. There are also hugely successful models in social platforms, Facebook, Kakao in Korea, Line, WeChat in China. What's taking place today is that e-commerce and social platforms are merging together to build a new business model, a huge opportunity called social commerce. And Amway is designed in its ideas that I talked to you about earlier, entrepreneur, social, and health and wellness, to be one of the leaders in this new emerging industry and business model. So we are reinventing traditional direct selling into social commerce. And that is our biggest long-term strategic change that we are making.
So, Milind, you've got to take your team with you to really go on this journey. How are you going about aligning the team to attack these growth opportunities?
Other than reading Taking People With You. But by the way, I did that, David. I reread Taking People With You. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, and the section there on trust and how trust is built and trust is destroyed. But one of the things we've been doing, David, is for my team, to answer your question, is we are on a journey to lead from the heart. Each of us would want to lead with love and humility and not fall into pride and fear. When there is so much change that takes place with a team that has been built that is so diverse, it's human. It's human for me at times of massive change or crisis like the pandemic to either go into pride or fear. And we are staying above the line and staying with lead from the heart. Something that, a couple who you know well, Stephen and Mara, started with, and they've continued to work with us in Amway on the journey. That has been in some sense the primary intervention that we are using in the senior leadership team today. And then there are others. Communication is a big part of that, David. And I realized as I was talking to you earlier, it's not so much about email communication, but surprisingly, surprise, my main channel of communication is Instagram, and it's daily. And that helps me keep in touch with our entrepreneurs across the world and our employees across the world, almost real time.
So what are you going to Instagram on today?
Well, today's or the most recent Instagram post have been about a new innovation that our China team did in the midst of the pandemic. In 90 days, a new immunity product, which I've taken as the example of great agility of the team to provide products that help the society in the long run. But there is so much more that I'm learning, as I navigate Instagram. It's required for me to be on a growth mindset in a way that I didn't think I would be able to do.
So now you're an Instagram junkie, which is fantastic. I imagine, Milind, that the gig economy is really affecting your business to some extent. Is it enabling you to require more new Amway business owners, or is it becoming more competitive?
Okay, that's a great question, and the way I'd say is we talked about social commerce, right? The confluence of e-commerce and social platforms that are taking place. During this pandemic, which has been very tough, but it has accelerated our journey, the 10-year journey that I mentioned to you, because there are three early trends that are emerging. The first is there is a need in society for people with supplemental income, which is called gig economy. Economies are hurt. There are people who are unemployed, and it's probably going to take a while before countries across the world are back to their feet, and the most vulnerable sections are back on their feet, and that's a big need in society, and that's a need that Amway can fulfill in its own small way. The second thing that's happening in terms of mega trends early is there's a huge focus on health and wellness and long-term immunity. It's a need in society. Again, all of us are concerned about our family, our spouses, our parents, our kids, our neighbors, our community. How do we, after hand washing and social distancing, what else do we do on a long term in terms of habits to be able to build up our immunity? And the third trend is online is the new offline, and the two of us having this conversation over Zoom and a podcast is just a way of that trend manifesting itself. So as far as the gig economy is concerned, that's a tailwind for the Amway business. And Amway perhaps was the original gig economy player even before the term was coined, because it offered freedom and flexibility to anyone who wanted to join in.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you're the largest of anything and you're the largest direct selling organization in the world, it's easy to rest on your laurels and get complacent. What are you doing to drive even more fire in the belly of the organization?
I think the one thing that the leadership team I'm part of and the entire organization wakes up to every morning, David, is this deep-rooted desire or fire in the belly or desire in the heart of helping the entrepreneur, especially the new young entrepreneur, succeed. That is something that's pervasive in the organization. And that new entrepreneur, she might, as I said, might be in Seoul or Tokyo and Shanghai or Delhi or Miami. She is today needs even more of Amway, both in terms of the entrepreneurship tools we provide, both in terms of digital and technology that we provide, innovative products we provide, partnership with leaders that we provide for her to be successful. And that's something that continues to drive us. That is the core belief that is deep embedded in Amway. Somewhat like, if I was to recollect our Yum days, it was the success of the restaurant general manager. He or she was the leader number one. And all of us woke up in whichever role, whichever function, whichever part of the world we were, we always woke up to think, what would we do that will help the restaurant general manager succeed? It's the same principle in Amway. It is, what do we do to help the entrepreneur succeed, especially during the early stages of our journey?
So you're really focused on developing this social commerce. And is that one of the reasons why you're demonstrating your new acuity to Instagram?
I think I stumble into Instagram more than anything else, David. I probably thought I'm going to be, spectacularly failing, but I'm quite enjoying it. And the thing that I enjoy the most is I can see entrepreneurs across the world, their authentic personality and ways that they're building the business. I would never be able to get that real experience, authentic experience, by any PowerPoint deck or any report that comes to me. I get it true, live, through Instagram.
Yeah. You've got a lot of competition, I'm sure, but everybody has Amazon. Amazon's this big elephant, out there. How's it affecting your business?
Well, David, competition is good. Competition keeps us on our toes and drives us to keep better. Amazon has everything. It has the capital, it has the capabilities, it has the momentum, but Amazon does not have one thing that Amway has, and I don't think it's in their business model to have it. Amazon does not have the entrepreneur. It doesn't have the Amway business owner. And that is the secret sauce of Amway. There are people there who want to buy from people, who trust relationships. We can provide health and wellness solutions to people from those who they trust and those who know them. And we can do that with our products. We can do that with the immense amount of data and algorithms that we can help our entrepreneurs with. Amazon and models like that in e-commerce will always be successful because there are customers who will always need only an easy, frictionless experience. And for a number of categories, that is true, even in our own home. But in health and wellness particularly, and to a large extent in beauty, people be a part of a community and buy from those who they trust. And the Amway business owner, the entrepreneur, is our secret recipe, one that stands us and provides us a competitive advantage that Amazon cannot match.
Milind, I understand that Amway has over 800 patents. So innovation is obviously very important to you. And, tell us a story about the most exciting new idea that you've seen so far.
David, I could give you so many from across the world, but perhaps the one that kind of brings the best of Amway out is a new product which was very unlikely and it's still not being commercialized. And I'll give you a context and I'll just get to your question specifically. This was in the early days of the pandemic in the United States. Of course, it started around the lunar year in other parts of the world. Middle of March, and I got a call from the CEO of the largest hospital network in West Michigan, saying that we need help. I said, what is it? I mean, we would love to do whatever we can. We are part of the community here. We're completely committed to it. She said, we need hand sanitizers. Can Amway help? I said, well, I'll find out. We really don't make hand sanitizers. And even if we wanted to make it, might be weeks or months by the time we can manufacture or produce them for you. Anyways, I called up my colleagues and I said, this is a request that's come from the community. What can we do? They said, we don't make it, but let us figure it out. Well, David, to cut a long story short, in 5 days flat, we not only got the packaging, the formulation, the FDA approval, we manufactured the hand sanitizers, and we delivered it to hospitals across West Michigan. Rather, there's one here, with me on my desk, and this showed the innovation. It showed the agility. It showed the empowerment of a cross-functional team. I was frankly, holed up in my home. I had no clue how this would be done, but the team went and did that. And that's the spirit and what I call the best of Amway being unleashed across the world. That's happening in innovation, and the hand sanitizer is one example of that.
That's a great story. And Milind, I know you talk a lot about the importance of courage. Do you have an experience in your leadership past where that really became something that really meant a lot to you?
David, for me, courage at times starts with understanding one's fears and kind of acknowledging that one is vulnerable, and to do that first to one's own self, and then to those around, in colleagues, one who trusts. So I've been through many instances in my career where I learned the value of courage, perhaps on hindsight, even more than being courageous at that time. I think the classic one, which you will relate to very well, is when I moved to China as a part of Yum, a highly successful business, very proud team, 400,000 employees, business built over multiple decades. At that time, required a change, and I went there, and it was complex. Complexity of the business itself, complexity of not knowing the language, all meetings and all emails being in Mandarin was a new experience, and just the pace of change that was required, and the dynamics of the team with very strong leaders with very strong opinions. And I learned my lesson that I need to be even more courageous in times like this to make sure that we do the right thing to help the restaurant general manager across China, in this case, succeed. So that's been one learning on courage, or when I was not as courageous that as I should have been during the early stages of my days in Yum China.
Well, you were very courageous just to take that job.
Thank you, David.
As an Indian going into China, and one of the reasons why you got that job was because of your cultural sensitivity. And now you're in well over 100 countries in Amway. And what do you think would be the number one thing you have to do to really run a truly global company?
I would, especially in the world we're living in, and the friction that we see in societies, and focus on differences more than similarities. I would go back to something I learned, David, which we mentioned earlier in this conversation during my time as GM of Thailand. And I learned that from my mistakes, which is first and foremost, the leader needs to lead from the heart, and to lead with love and humility, with a high degree of empathy and sensitivity to people across the world. Everyone gets up every morning to do their best and to be successful. to be a good dad, good mom, a good colleague, a good friend at work, and do the best in the job. And it's my job, it's my responsibility to have a culture and environment that everyone can shine to their best of who they want to be. And to me, in my personal behavior, that comes with leading with love and with humility instead of pride and fear.
When you say leading with love, that sounds pretty soft, airy fairy kind of stuff. Do people's eyes roll over when you say that?
Well, yes, it does. Till we go deeper into it, and understand, for example, giving honest, true feedback to people is a reflection of love. We want the best for those who work with us, and who we work around, and that is love. To put what you used to talk about a lot, David, to put we before me is an expression of love. Those of us who, and it's human, those of us who get self-centered or selfish at times and put me before we, that's not an expression of love towards others. So yes, I think at times in a conventional sort of say corporate environment, it may seem to be softy, but this is very much core to what Amway is, and it's very much core to us being a people business. We are not into brick and mortars. Our distributors are humans. When we have to work with them and take them with us, it's not about appealing to their intellect. It's appealing to their heart. And for them to be able to trust us that we have got their best interest in mind. And all that starts with love and humility. And by the way, I'm on that personal journey, and there are times when I can get into pride and fear, especially when there's crisis or there's pressure, and revert to it. But it's a good reminder and help with my colleagues at work to have the awareness, and with Amrita at home to have the awareness that one has to continue on that journey.
You mentioned these are challenging times a little earlier, and this country now is facing the aftermath of the tragic death of George Floyd. How have you addressed this within your organization?
I think we've been, David, staying true to the idea of Amway, that Amway is for everyone. So the first thing we've done is to clearly communicate where we stand, and we've done that in clear ways that Black Lives Matter, and internally we are taking a number of steps that help people have conversations that are difficult, that are awkward at times. There are unity circles within Amway, groups that get together and talk about real issues in society, that the real hurt that is there, and first and foremost start a healing process. We are working with the community here in Grand Rapids to see what substantive differences we can make in our home here in Grand Rapids, beyond sort of say the current news cycle.
Hopefully we're going to get some real change this time around on this. And Milind, you've had so much success in your career. Do you have what you would call an epic fail, and what did it teach you?
David, I'm still work in progress, and I've had multiple epic fails. So where do you want me to start? Perhaps, okay, let me go back to my Unilever days. David, this was my first role as marketing director in India for the ice creams category. And I was younger and confident, perhaps cocky then. And this is a small business. Unilever in India today is a $6 billion business. It's been highly successful over years. For me, it was like a second MBA, and so much I learned there, as I did in Yum. So I went to this ice cream business, which is a smaller business in Unilever, struggling, not making money. So it was a really tough business. And one of the things that attracted me to the fact that it was a tough challenge. And I moved to this business and I think it was the May or June of the year, in the middle of summer. Our business was primarily impulse products. And what I said for myself is I said, in my first 100 days, I'm going to build and execute a turnaround plan. So I didn't listen and learn, okay? I went in saying, I'll build a turnaround plan, got new positioning in new advertising, very youth, very indulgent. We made 20 or 25 new products in 100 days, from ideas to manufacturing, and went and launched it with a bang. By the time this happened, this was then start of September. And there was a little bit of a problem that summer was over. And, this was, and while the business did improve, it was no turnaround that one had planned for. And for me, this was not only an epic failure, it was my first public failure and a setback, and one that when I reflect on it, was truly a time for learning as a person, as a colleague, learning not to be in a fixed mindset, and to pick this up and then see what one gets from there. But it was when I look back even now, when I meet my people I work with, then I sometimes ask them, why did you fire me? I think Unilever was very generous. Let me continue.
It's always fun to hear those stories, and it's been fun hearing your insights, Milind. I want to have a little bit more fun with you here and ask you a lightning round of questions. So are you ready for this?
Sure, David.
Okay. What 3 words best describe you?
Restless, energetic, passionate.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve, David, is when I come across people who do not want to change as fast as they can.
If you could trade places with one person for a day, who would it be and why?
I think during these days at home, the one household member I want to trade places with is a diva lab Tyra. She's got the best life in the world.
What's something about you that only a few people would know?
David, this is a fun fact. My first job in Unilever, after I did my management undergrad and as I said, in strategy and marketing, was not to handle a brand management of one of the brands like Dove or Axe or Lipton. It was in a business unit that made leather shoes for exports in Unilever. I said, okay, that's great. That sounds fantastic. Maybe I'll get a chance to go to London or New York where customers are based. I never traveled outside of India at that point of time when I joined Unilever. So my general manager, I still remember, said, no, young man, you got to start with the foundations of the business. You got to start with leather tanneries. So my first role in Unilever was vendor management of leather processing. This is close to 30 years back in India, tanneries. And that foul smell is still in my nostrils even today.
Oh, Milind, now, do you have any hidden talents?
David, perhaps Bollywood dancing?
Milind, you've been in 24/7 huge travel jobs for a long time. What's the best way, or do you have any advice on how to manage work-life balance?
It's a tough one, David, and it's even got tougher during the pandemic. And I must admit, there are in the first, 4 to 6 weeks, one was very exhausted because weekdays, weekends were merging into each other. And again, the same thing happened with travel. With 90% of our business outside of the United States, I've inculcated a couple of habits that hopefully could be useful for others. One is daily exercise, even if it's been just 20 minutes. It could just be a run or getting onto a bike or whatever it is, in just 20 minutes of daily exercise. The second thing which I've picked up in the last couple of years, David, is just in the afternoon, take 10 minutes to shut my eyes and meditate. It clears my head, and it kind of gives me a renewed energy for the rest of the day. And the third one, David, is I've moved back in some sense, I guess, to my roots and moved to predominantly plant-based diets. Not 100%, but predominantly plant-based diets, which I guess fits in very well with Nutrilite now. But these are the three habits that one is inculcating going forward.
Oh, that's great. And Milind, as we wrap this up, I want to go back and it's one of my career highlights in terms of people is that I interviewed you and you didn't take the job. And I thought you were going to take the job. And I asked, what happened to this guy named Milind Pant? And they said, well, he turned us down. So I sent you an email and I said, when I look back on the last year, the fact that we didn't hire you is one of my biggest disappointments. And you sent me an email back and we interviewed again. And then, we were lucky enough to get you to come to Yum Branch, which is KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell. And you did a great job there. And it's great to see you hitting the ground running at Amway. And they're lucky to have you. And thank you so much for taking the time to be in this podcast.
Thank you, David. It's, that mail and being in your office in Louisville and looking at all the recognition photos, not only on the walls, but, across every inch of your office spaces, is a memory I treasure. David, thank you for this conversation. It's a privilege. Enjoyed every minute of it.
Great. Me too.